Hi, my name is Bill, and welcome to my channel. Some of you know me. I know that's a very small number of people, but for those who don't, but you're interested in things like this, I want to explain that I've gone through some major shifts in my beliefs. I was ordained as a 32-year-old Southern Baptist minister in 1982. I was serving as the pastor of a very small but wonderful group of people in a small Southern Baptist church on the outskirts of the Mississippi Delta town of Greenville. There, I started commuting to a fundamentalist Southern Baptist seminary, but I only attended 3 semesters before deciding to postpone the rest of my theological training. After a 20-year gap, I was hired by the Southern Baptist denomination to work as a church planting strategist in the panhandle of Northwest Florida. And so based upon that new position, I was approached by the director of the Florida Baptist Convention with the news that he wanted me to complete my Master of Divinity degree at the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. Well, I was thrilled. The FBC took care of all expenses: tuition, travel, gas, lodging, and meals. So I'm very thankful to them for allowing me to finish my MDiv. So I served as a church planting strategist in the Florida Panhandle for 6 or 7 years. At some point, I received an invitation to move to Wales, part of the United Kingdom, where I worked with a small evangelical and Reformed denomination. My role in Wales was to encourage and assist in church planting for an association of 25 churches. Amazingly, the average attendance in those churches was only 25 people, and most of them had a pastor. I had no idea their annual salary package or if they got a parsonage as part of their compensation. I started out with a 5-year Minister of Religion visa. After 2.5 years, we discovered some of the more influential leaders were unhappy with my methodology, and they began placing significant pressure on the small group of men who were providing leadership to that association. They were honorable in spite of the results, and they offered to pay the costs of repatriation back to the United States, since they were the ones who brought me over to Wales and I had not violated the terms of my contract or the very frank discussions on my methodologies and approaches to church planting. I was given 30 days to decide whether I would accept their offer or remain in the UK as a minister of religion with some other group. One local church reached out and said, "We have a place for you here." So I became a church development worker for a rather large 125-member Baptist church in the market town where we had lived for 2.5 years. My duties included the training and development of the church's small group ministry, and I was also responsible for matters involving benevolence in the local community. It did not matter their church affiliation, but the fact that they had fallen on hard times, such as often happens with a life of drugs, alcohol, or prostitution. Or maybe they were just homesick and wanted to go back to their home area to be surrounded by friends and family. If such a person approached me, I had the discretion to put them on a bus or a train, make arrangements for someone to meet them at their destination. We didn't care who got credit. We were just happy that we could help get them where they needed to go. Oftentimes, they just didn't have the money to make such a transition, and that was the only thing keeping them from starting a new life with people around them who loved them. So I served in that position for 2.5 years. I preached once a month. The elders considered me an auxiliary elder, though not officially installed in that position. And I worked on the church staff as their church development worker. When we moved back to the States in 2009, I began feeling the tremendous weight of accumulated trauma, some things personal and many things related to various ministry positions. I made the decision to drop out of organized religion altogether. It was not my plan to leave the Christian faith. I was just going solo, and I didn't feel any significant pressure to attend church. And yes, remember, I have a Master of Divinity, so I know all the arguments, the verses, and so forth. And so I became a freelance Christian. I still considered myself a Christian, but I just didn't want to be part of an organized church. I assumed that I would spend the rest of my days as a solo Christian, reaching out to others when I discovered those who shared my faith, and it didn't seem odd to fellowship without an organized religious setting. Around 2019, I transitioned into what I call the liberal phase of my Christian life. Theologically, I went from being a rigid Calvinist who believed only the elect would ever know God's grace or spend eternity in heaven, to the polar opposite, someone who embraced universal reconciliation. I believed that God's grace restored all creation, including every soul, to perfect unity with Him. No one would ever be left out. I didn't believe in hell. All mankind, no matter how they were brought up, whether they were completely atheist, or if they were Buddhist or Muslim or Jewish or Christian, if there was a heaven, if there was a God, they would be welcomed in. Now let's jump back in time from 1977 to 1980, when I attended Mississippi State University with a major in marketing and a degree in business administration. During those years, I took 2 courses in biblical archaeology. They were taught by a former Southern Baptist Seminary professor, Dr. Ephraim Jeremiah, or Jerry, Vardaman, who had been discredited and ousted by the conservative resurgence of the Southern Baptist denomination in the mid-70s. He was not only a professor of religion, he was the founder and director of the Cobb Institute of Archaeology at MSU. I took these courses as part of my electives. Dr. Vardaman explained the existence of myths, epics, tales, and stories that predate Judaism and Christianity by centuries. A famous one is called the Epic of Gilgamesh. Sumerian versions of the Gilgamesh stories date back to around 2100 BCE, originating in ancient Mesopotamia or modern-day Iraq. In contrast, Judaism was not solidified until the Mosaic period, 13th to 12th century BCE, and the Torah was not completed until the 6th to the 5th century BCE. There are so many similarities between the Great Flood in the Epic of Gilgamesh and the biblical account in the book of Genesis. In both stories, the gods, or God in Noah's case, decided to destroy humanity with a great flood due to human wickedness or corruption. Both stories feature a righteous man chosen to survive. Both men built large vessels to preserve life, and both were sealed with pitch to be waterproof. Animals were taken aboard to repopulate the earth after the flood, which wiped out nearly all of life. Both men released birds to test if the waters were receded. After the flood, the gods and God vowed not to destroy humanity again. In Gilgamesh, the gods placed a rainbow-like necklace of Ishtar in the sky. And in Genesis, God sets a rainbow as a covenant not to flood the earth again. Reflecting back on those days, I can remember how angry I got as a young student. I was a flaming, conservative, evangelical, fundamentalist, Southern Baptist, and I put my hand up frequently, and I accused Dr. Vardaman of being a liberal, and that he didn't believe in the verbal, plenary inspiration of the scriptures. I was older than most of my classmates after serving 4 years in the Air Force during the Vietnam era. When I was discharged in 1977, I came home and went to college on the GI Bill. Looking back, I started wondering if those stories had any significance. I discovered that there were a growing number of Christians and former Christians who had embraced the fact that Christianity is just a man-made religion, just like Islam or Confucianism or Zoroastrianism. Of all the world religions, Christianity was just one of many. They were all man-made. So I started embracing that view and watching documentaries of experts in biblical criticism, comparative religions, and mythology, religious studies, in other words, the anthropology of religion, archaeology, and apologetics. Look into the writings of Daniel Dennett, philosophy, Sam Harris, neuroscience and philosophy, Christopher Hitchens, literary criticism and journalism, Steven Weinberg, physics, Victor Stenger, physics, Peter Atkins, chemistry, Jerry Coyne, evolutionary biology, Sean Carroll, physics and cosmology, Alex Rosenberg, philosophy, A.C. Grayling, philosophy, Michael Ruse, philosophy of biology, and Lawrence Krauss, physics and cosmology. And I finally concluded, I think, Dr. Vardaman was right back in those days, and I began to deconstruct my faith. At first, I thought agnosticism sounded better than atheism because it seemed to soften the blow when people hear you're an agnostic, meaning you're not really sure if there's a God. But I was convinced there was no God, and there was only one label I could put on myself. I had become an atheist. I realized for those who know me, well, you're going to feel all kinds of emotions about this. Anger, betrayal, frustration, sadness, and perhaps other things. Please understand that I don't want to be viewed as someone who needs to be saved or who needs to be won over once again to the Christian faith. Here's what I would like for you to consider. I just want to be able to hang out with you, talk and laugh, share stories, and get caught up with things we've missed in each other's lives. I'd love to talk about our kids, our grandkids, and life. I don't want us to have an awkward conversation around this topic. Now, if you've got honest questions, I'd be happy to answer them, as long as I don't perceive those questions as trying to win me back to Christianity. That's just not going to happen. And at this point, I don't believe there is a God. I don't believe there is a heaven or a hell. There are no rewards waiting if we tough it out in this life and wake up in some glorious place. I don't mean to denigrate the Christian message. I'm just telling you straight up that I don't believe any of those things now. I believe this is the only life we have. And therefore, to me, it makes sense that because this is the only life we have, we should make the most of it. We should enjoy it to the full. Because one day, and for me, I'm 71 years old now, one day soon for me, it's going to all be over. I've decided to be cremated, and there will be no burial place for my bones or my ashes. I've never understood why anyone would want to carry my ashes around, place them in a pot on the mantle. I have no interest in those things. So there you have it. Meet Bill Lawler, the avowed atheist. I'm always happy to chat about these things if you're really interested. I just want to have mutual respect between us. For everyone else who has watched this entire video, I hope that something I've said today might resonate with you and help you in your journey, whatever it is. You take care. Now, this is the tradition in our family, our way of saying farewell. Bye for now.